Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In my hands, I have the Sony A6700, and this camera I was really excited for. I've been waiting for it for a long time. Like a hybrid FX30 is what I thought it was going to be, and it was going to be a perfect pairing to my Sony A7 IV, which I'm filming on right now. But after watching some of the reviews, I was pretty skeptical in the overheating of the A6700, and I wanted to do some tests for myself because what I saw on YouTube wasn't fully definitive. As mentioned, so far on YouTube, the tests that I've seen in 4K, 24, 60, and 120 frames per second have all been done in 10-bit 422. So in today's video, I wanted to test at 420 and see if there's like a way that we can kind of scale back what we're asking this camera to do and still get some really solid performance in terms of run times. Victor Laforteza, one of my favorite YouTubers right now, has done 2 different tests with the Sony A6700, and he has concluded that this camera actually gets better with firmware updates. So I wanted to know for myself, starting with version 1.0, because the camera I have is brand new. It came with the older firmware 1.00, so I wanted to run the tests beforehand with that firmware and then run them again with version 1.01, and I hope that this helps you guys make a decision on if this camera is for you in terms of video. After Victor's in-studio 4K 60 test, he concluded after the firmware updates that he was able to get over 1 hour runtime on this camera, and for me this was super promising and something that I was excited to test all day. So I ran through so many batteries today just running different tests, and we're going to be getting into that shortly. What you need to know is that I was not in a hot climate. I tested it at home, and I'm in Canada right now. It's not too hot. It was 16 degrees Celsius or 61 Fahrenheit. Also with my testing, the screen was open for the A6700 on all of these tests, and then the auto power off temperature was set to high. All tests that I've seen online at 4K 24 frames per second indoors have performed pretty well, but I also saw 4K 24 in direct sunlight shut off around 21 minutes in another video. So this is somewhat concerning because I shoot weddings, so that is my use case for this. If I can get this camera to last at least, like, let's say 45 minutes outdoors shooting 4K 24, I'd be gladly happy to keep it. So here are my results. If you're getting any value from this video, it goes a really long way if you could leave a like, and let's get into the test. Okay, so as mentioned, my A6700 shipped with version 1.00 firmware. So what I did, I started with that firmware version and shooting 4K 60 indoors. It got hot after 18 minutes, and then it shut off at 34 minutes and 43 seconds. That was in the aps-c codec. The next test I did was with firmware version 1.0, and this was at 4K 120 frames per second. 15 minutes in, I got the overheat warning, and then it actually shut off at 17 minutes and 21 seconds. So then I went ahead and installed the new update, optimistic that it was going to change some of these run times based on a video that I saw on YouTube. So I updated to 1.01 and I ran the same tests. I really put this camera through the paces after this firmware update. So I started 4K 60 indoors, exact same settings as before, and it lasted for 39 minutes and 1 second. So this was a little bit longer, but not substantially. Then I put it in the fridge immediately after for 10 minutes, let it cool off, and then I got 14 minutes out of it. And then I was like, okay, what happens if I just turn this camera off immediately after it overheats, turn it back on, and try again? I immediately got 5 minutes use out of it. So this was kind of cool to see that if you're really in a pinch, the camera's not going to like completely lock you out. You will still be able to record like a little bit, but that can't be good for the camera to continuously run it at overheating temperatures. After this, I decided to do the 4K 120 frames per second indoor test again. I let the camera cool off for about half an hour. I put it in the fridge for another 10 minutes, and it was not hot to the touch anymore. And I got 10 minutes and 10 seconds for 4K 120 frames per second with the new firmware update. I then was somewhat frustrated because of the inconsistent times in overheating, and it wasn't performing as well as I wanted. So I was curious about my Sony A7 IV. I decided to pop that into 4K 60 at 420 10-bit, and it was still going after hour and 17 minutes, and then I wanted to record this video, so I was like, you know what, screw it, we'll end that test. There was no overheat warning, and it was hot to the touch at that point when I turned it off, but so much better than the A6700. So my hypothesis for this video was that the A6700 was going to get better once I changed the firmware, but that was inaccurate for me in my testings. I know for Victor it worked, but for me, I got under an hour substantially in 4K 60, where he got over after his firmware updates. So for me, that wasn't enough of an upgrade. Do I think that the Sony A6700 has overheating concerns? Yes, absolutely. And to the point where I thought it was an amazing hybrid option, but I no longer think that. It can do some incredible things for video, but honestly, it's photography first, and if you need to shoot video, just get the FX30. The only issue with that is I need hybrid functionality, and there's no viewfinder with the FX30, and on top of that, it doesn't have a mechanical shutter. It's electronic, and with that, you get some really substantial banding indoors, so I don't really love that, and I'm still kind of stuck for a B cam. And the question that probably everyone wants to know, will I keep the Sony A6700 after I know what I know and I've done my own testing? If they give me full money back for this camera, I'll certainly take it. I'm quite disappointed with these results. I shoot a lot of weddings, and I need something that's a lot more stable in terms of overheating, that can last a whole lot longer and that I don't have to worry about. Second thing about it, I knew this already, and whatever, this is just a throw in, but it doesn't have dual SD card slots. That's also important to me in a camera. I was gonna just deal with it if this camera didn't overheat, but it overheats. So if they give me full money back, I think I'm within the window, then I'll take it and figure out another option for my B cam. If they don't allow me to return it, or there's a 10% restocking fee, so that would cost me $250 plus shipping, so about $300 to return it, I'd probably keep it at that point because I could just sell it used for that exact same price. It would give me time to do a little bit more testing with it, and who knows, maybe I fall in love with it. I have a wedding next weekend that I can try it at, and if there's no overheating in the real world use case, then maybe it's something I hold on to for a little bit longer. All in all, today's testing was a little bit unfortunate. I was a little bit more optimistic for the record times. However, it does overheat substantially, and I don't know if I can fully trust it. Lastly, if you are looking for a true hybrid camera, you get full frame, you get very minimal to no overheating, you get dual SD card slots. It's what we're shooting on right now, this Sony A7 IV. I can't recommend it enough. It's like 2 years old now, but honestly, it's been my favorite camera I've ever owned, and it's highly regarded as one of the best cameras you can pick up for the price. So A7 IV, everybody. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next one. Matty out. Peace.